It was a moment that shook Hollywood and forever changed the perception of talk shows. No one could have predicted that an interview on the popular show, The Spotlight between cinematic legends Robert De Niro and Jack Nicholson, would turn into an unprecedented clash filled with emotion, anger, and shocking revelations. Robert De Niro, a cinema icon with a 50-year career, came to the show to promote his new film, a drama about family bonds and human resilience. Expecting a friendly conversation, he faced Jack Nicholson, a host whose reputation as a provocateur had long been whispered about behind the scenes. This night became a moment that exposed the toxicity of the media and the power of human dignity. Subscribe and leave a comment because this story will shock you. The Spotlight studio buzzed with anticipation. Blinding spotlights flooded the stage, and the audience, filled with fans and journalists, murmured excitedly. Cameras hummed, operators checked their angles, and producers scurried about with headsets, whispering final instructions. The atmosphere was electric, like the calm before a storm. The stage featured a simple yet elegant setup. Two leather armchairs with a glass table between them, a water pitcher gleaming under the lights. Robert De Niro entered the studio with effortless confidence. At 82, he remained an icon. Silver hair neatly combed, a dark suit perfectly tailored, and eyes radiating wisdom with a hint of weariness from a man who had seen it all. His reputation as an actor who poured his soul into his roles and a man who stayed true to his principles preceded him. The audience erupted in applause as he gave a brief wave and a smile. Jack Nicholson, the host, awaited him at the table. At 88, he retained his signature charisma, a sly smile, dramatically raised eyebrows, and the same glint in his eyes that once made him a movie star. But behind his charm lurked another reputation. A man who loved to teeter on the edge of provocation, throwing sharp questions that often left guests uncomfortable. His co-hosts, two younger TV personalities, exchanged glances, sensing the tension already brewing in the air. The interview started innocently. Jack, leaning back in his chair with his trademark grin, asked, "Robert, your new film, Legacy, is already being called an Oscar contender. What inspired you to take on this role?" De Niro, accustomed to such questions, answered calmly, his voice steady with a faint New York accent. "It's a story about family, about fighting for those we love, even when the odds are against us. I felt this story was important, especially now, when the world is so divided." The audience clapped, but Jack, tilting his head, suddenly shifted his tone. His smile sharpened, almost predatory. "Family, you say? Interesting. You talk a lot about values, Robert, but don't you think your roles are just a way to hide behind a mask? Some say you've been playing the same character for decades." A hush fell over the room. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every detail. De Niro's face tensed slightly, but he maintained his composure. "I play what I feel, Jack," he replied, his voice steady. "Every role is a part of me, but also something new. I don't hide. I reveal myself through them." Jack smirked, his eyes glinting. "Reveal yourself? Let's be honest, Robert. You're an icon. But some say you're just selling the same tough guy from the Bronx image. Aren't you tired of that?" The audience froze. One of the co-hosts, a young woman named Emily, shifted uncomfortably in her seat, as if wanting to intervene, but Jack waved her off. De Niro took a deep breath, his fingers subtly gripping the armrest. "I don't think of it as selling," he said, his voice colder now. "I tell stories. If people see something consistent in them, that's their right. But I don't play to please critics." Jack, sensing a weak spot, went on the offensive. His voice turned sarcastic, almost venomous. "Telling stories? Oh, Robert, you're not just an actor, you're a brand. You sell yourself as a champion of justice, but doesn't that feel a bit hypocritical? Take your charity work, for instance. You donate millions, but some say it's just a way to clean up your reputation after your political statements." The audience gasped. De Niro's face flushed, not with embarrassment but with anger he barely restrained. His eyes, always so expressive, now burned with a quiet, dangerous fire. "Jack," he said, his voice low, almost menacing, "I do what I think is right. My donations aren't about reputation. They're about people who need help. And you know that. Jack laughed, his laugh sharp as a blade. No, Robert, I only know what I see. And what I see is an actor who loves playing the hero on and off screen, but are you really that guy? Or is it just another role? Emily, the co-host, finally couldn't hold back. Jack, maybe we should get back to the film. Her voice trembled, but she tried to smile. Jack dismissed her, not breaking eye contact with De Niro. No, Emily, let's talk about the real Robert De Niro, the one who makes bold statements and then hides behind his roles. Like your political comments. You called people idiots for their views. Is that your justice? The audience split. Some clapped for Jack, others booed indignantly. Producers backstage exchanged worried looks, but no one intervened. Cameras buzzed, capturing every detail. Sweat on De Niro's temples, his clenched jaw, fingers tapping nervously on the table. I call things as I see them, De Niro replied, his voice sharp but still controlled. If I see injustice, I speak out. I don't hide, Jack, unlike some. The last words landed like a challenge. The audience erupted, and Jack, instead of backing down, leaned forward, his smile almost sinister. Oh, that's a low blow, Robert. But let's talk about your marriages. 3 marriages, 2 divorces. Doesn't that make you a questionable role model for morality? The blow felt physical. De Niro's face froze, his eyes narrowing. The audience fell silent, sensing a line had been crossed. Emily tried to intervene again, but Jack raised a hand, silencing her. The tension in the studio thickened, heavy as fog, and everyone waited for what would come next. Robert De Niro slowly rose from his chair. His movements were deliberate, but they carried an undeniable force. He looked straight at Jack, his gaze holding no fear, only contempt and restrained fury. Jack, he began, his voice quiet but cutting through the studio like thunder. I came here to talk about art, about stories, about what unites us. But you? You use this platform to tear people down. You're not seeking truth. You're chasing ratings. And you know what? That doesn't make me look weak. It makes you look weak. The audience erupted in applause, but De Niro ignored them. He continued, his words falling like stones. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But I've never stooped to digging into someone's life for cheap thrills. You call yourself a journalist? You're just a clown playing to the crowd. Jack flushed, his smile vanishing. He opened his mouth to respond, but De Niro didn't give him a chance. I won't let you humiliate me for your 5 minutes of fame. You've shown the world who you are, and I don't want to be part of this circus. With that, De Niro turned and walked off the stage. The audience gasped, cameras scrambled to follow him, and Jack sat frozen, his face a mix of anger and humiliation. Emily, shocked, tried to salvage the situation, smiling and addressing the audience. We'll be right back after the break. But everyone knew this moment had already made history. As Robert De Niro disappeared backstage, the Spotlight studio descended into chaos. The audience buzzed like a beehive. Some shouted support for the actor, others whispered about Jack Nicholson's shocking behavior. Cameras, still rolling, captured every moment. Emily's stunned expression as she tried to maintain her smile, and Jack, sitting with pursed lips, his eyes blazing with anger. His hands trembled as he grabbed a glass of water, but didn't drink. The tension that had built throughout the interview had exploded, leaving behind a sense that an earthquake had just struck. Backstage, producers scrambled like ants. One, a young man in a headset, whispered into his radio, "What do we do?" "He's gone. We need to fill the airtime." Another, an older woman with a stern face, frantically flipped through the script, searching for a way to save the show. But everyone knew. This moment couldn't be undone. De Niro hadn't just left the studio. He'd challenged the very nature of modern media, and his gesture was already going viral. Jack Nicholson, left on stage, tried to regain control. His face, usually full of charismatic confidence, now seemed like a cracking mask. He forced a smile, but it came out crooked, almost painful. "Well," he began, addressing the audience with feigned ease. "It seems our guest wasn't ready for a real conversation. But that's the show, right? We're here to entertain you, The audience responded with hesitant laughter, but many exchanged uneasy glances. Emily, sensing the situation slipping away, tried to save the moment. Jack, maybe we move to the next segment? Her voice was tense, but she kept a professional tone. Oh, Emily, don't rush, Jack snapped, his voice sharp. We just had a real moment. People want truth, not polished answers, right? He turned to the audience, seeking support, but this time the applause was weak. A few people in the back rows even started booing. Jack, feeling the crowd slip away, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Robert De Niro can play the hero, but he can't handle being backed into a corner. You saw that, didn't you? He ran because he couldn't answer. His words sparked outrage. Someone in the audience shouted, "You went too far, Jack." The spotlight. Cameras, sensing the tension, zoomed in on Nicholson's face, which briefly twisted with anger before he forced another smile. All right, he said, raising his hands as if surrendering. We'll be back after the break. Don't switch channels. As the show cut to commercial, the studio erupted in whispers and debates. The spotlights dimmed, but the tension lingered, heavy and sticky like summer heat. Backstage, producers were already calling De Niro's agent, trying to smooth things over, but the response was curt. He's not coming back. Backstage, Robert De Niro stood in a quiet corridor away from the studio's chaos. His hands still trembled with adrenaline, but his face was calm, almost pensive. His assistant, a young woman named Sarah, approached with a bottle of water. Are you okay, Mr. De Niro? She asked, her voice full of concern. He nodded slowly, his gaze distant. I'm fine, Sarah, but I won't let anyone humiliate me or my work. Not like that. Not for their cheap tricks. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with respect. She saw De Niro wrestle with the urge to return and give Jack another piece of his mind, but he chose a different path, the path of dignity. He adjusted his jacket and quietly added, I did all I could. Let them deal with it now. Meanwhile, social media was already ablaze. Clips from the interview taken out of context spread like wildfire. The hashtag #De Niro walks out trended, and fans shared snippets of his speech, calling it legendary and uncompromising. But some supported Jack, arguing he was just doing his job and exposing hypocrisy. The debate divided the internet, and every new comment only fueled the fire. The confrontation on the spotlight became more than just a TV moment. It exposed a deeper issue: how the media, in pursuit of ratings, often crosses the line, sacrificing respect and humanity for sensationalism. Robert De Niro, by walking off, didn't just defend his dignity. He challenged a system that encourages toxicity and provocation. His words, full of strength and truth, lingered in viewers' minds as a reminder. True power lies not in shouting louder, but in staying true to oneself, even when the world is watching. Jack Nicholson, on the other hand, paid a heavy price for his behavior. In the days that followed, the Spotlight's ratings plummeted, and social media was flooded with calls to boycott the show. Some defended Jack, claiming his provocations were part of his style, but most saw him as a cynic who had crossed a line. His attempts to justify himself in later episodes felt weak, and his once charming smile now seemed hollow. This event became a turning point for both men. For De Niro, it reaffirmed his status not only as a cinematic legend, but as a man of principle, ready to stand up to injustice. For Nicholson, it was a mirror reflecting how far he'd strayed from the charismatic actor he once was. Their clash went down in history as a testament to how dignity can triumph over cynicism, and how one person can shift the conversation about what's acceptable in the media. Subscribe to learn more about the behind-the-scenes dramas shaking Hollywood. And tell us, did Robert De Niro do the right thing by walking off the show, or should he have stayed to fight? What do you think of Jack Nicholson's behavior? Was he justified in his questions, or was it just a desire to humiliate? Why do you think hosts resort to such personal attacks for ratings? Share your thoughts in the comments.